you have to ask yourself, for whose benefit is the Prime Minister of Canada, any Prime Minister of Canada, actually working? Who does the Prime Minister work for? You pay his salary, he spends your money. He controls your borders, criminal laws, and military. He negotiates trade agreements with foreign countries that can help or hurt your family. He makes life or death decisions. Now, what if he has millions of dollars of financial interests that are opposite your interests? What if he's profiting off insider knowledge and power at your expense? What if his interests lie with foreign hostile governments that can undermine our country? Then he is not working for you, he's working against you. That's why we have a law in Canada that requires politicians disclose all their assets and sell off any that put them in a conflict. You might be familiar with this law. It's called the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Law, because Justin Trudeau has been convicted twice of breaking that law. That's why we call Justin Trudeau a man of conviction. He keeps getting convicted. But now Trudeau's advisor, Mark Carney, has found a sneaky loophole, one that could allow him to gain power while hiding and holding millions of dollars in interests that go against you and your country. Here's how. Conflict of interest rules do not apply to leadership candidates. Mr. Carney could win the Liberal leadership and become Prime Minister without revealing to Canadians his massive multi-million-dollar foreign holdings. And he isn't even required at the point of becoming Prime Minister to reveal these holdings. He has 60 days to share the information with the Ethics Commissioner, and then another 60 days, for a total of 120, before some of that information goes public. Worse, he can simply put the existing holdings in what is called a blind trust, while his trustee keeps him invested in all of the same things. So he could go on and govern for years, quietly and subtly knowing what investments he has and making decisions that profit himself at the expense of the Canadian people. He could affect vital regulatory decisions, national security, international trade, all to his own benefit, all against the benefit of the Canadian people. Now, if you question whether he's willing to do that, keep in mind that Mark Carney's first decision after Donald Trump first threatened tariffs against Canada was to move his headquarters to the United States, sending Canadian jobs to America. So, what if he continues making decisions but now has all the power to make them with being Prime Minister of the country? Now, to be clear, there's nothing in the law that prevents Mr. Carney from doing the right thing today. He could voluntarily disclose to Canadians all of his holdings, and then people could judge for themselves. He could offer to sell them all so that he wouldn't be in a conflict of interest. But he's being sneaky. He continues to hide. What is he hiding in all of these finances? And how could he possibly negotiate with President Trump? You can be sure of one thing. President Trump believes in using leverage against his counterparty. He said so in his book. And his officials will come in with a briefing note. And that note will say, here are all Mark Carney's millions of dollars of financial holdings in the United States. And the president would then be able to use his massive regulatory, taxation, government buying, and other powers to manipulate Mark Carney against our country. You can be sure that President Trump will leverage all of Mark Carney's financial interests against Canada. And then Canadians would lose out again, just like they lost out when Carney sold out Canada and sent jobs to New York a few months ago. How could Mark Carney support Canadian energy if he's invested in foreign energy projects that compete with that energy? How could he regulate financial institutions to stop ripping off small businesses when one of his companies is accused of doing just that? How could he save jobs when one of his companies is presently laying off 1,000 workers to pay bigger bonuses to shareholders? That's why I'm announcing that common sense conservatives will bring home accountability by amending the Conflict of Interests and Ethics Act to require anyone who becomes a leadership candidate for a registered federal party to disclose all their holdings to the Ethics Commissioner within 30 days and publish them publicly within 60. We will also require prime ministers and ministers to sell off all holdings that put them within a conflict of interest within 30 days of taking power. That will put you back in charge of your government and bring home power to the people. It will ensure that our leaders work for you, not for greedy and corrupt interests. It will prevent our leaders from selling out our people for personal profit. And it will stop corrupt, immoral, elitist, and globalist forces from pulling the strings of the people in charge. Simply put, our leaders must put Canada first. They must work for you.